What were the Americans looking for in 1947 in Antarctica? The Allies in 1947 were alarmed when they heard rumors that the Antarctic base had been operating since at least 1935, thanks to activities of the Vril Group, which was an independent group with huge funds dealing with new technologies, but also the evolution of revolutionary futuristic disc-shaped aircraft. Microfilms found on a German submarine bound for the southern seas have revealed the Germans' technological superiority, saying they were at least 50 years ahead. Let's remember that von Braun, who came to head NASA after the Second World War, was a part of the technology, the rocket technology of Germany. And a lot of those German scientists came to the US starting off NASA. Now, the Americans send 48 ships to Antarctica, including a submarine, an aircraft carrier, and a ship carrying 200 craft, as well as 4,080 soldiers, led by Admiral Richard Byrd, under the pretext of exploring Antarctica, but who were in fact to find and destroy this German base that was allegedly in Antarctica. The official name was Operation Highjump. The mission arrived in the winter of 1946 to 47 and ended in late February 47. Highjump main public mission was to expand the Little America research base in Antarctica, according to the U.S. Navy report. Byrd had 8 months to complete the mission, but in 8 weeks he was forced to return with many losses on fighter jets. So what exactly happened there? Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. So Operation Highjump, instead of lasting for 8 months, it only lasted 8 weeks. According to information leaked by men of the mission, the U.S. Navy was confronted with a group of real flying saucers, and in the air battles that followed the arrival in Antarctica, 4 planes were destroyed and 12 were lost. They were significantly behind the technology of the German force. U.S. services withdrew the mission, and in the official report submitted, the 4 planes that were destroyed seemed to have, quote, technical problems and crashed into icebergs, end quote. Admiral Byrd had given an unexpected interview to the Spanish newspaper El Mercurio in Santiago, Chile, March 5th, 1947, and he stated that the interview stated that Admiral Byrd stated today that it was imperative for the United States to launch immediate defense against unknown enemy areas. The Admiral also said he did not want to scare anyone, but it was a bitter reality that in the event of a new war, the continental U.S. would have to defend itself from flying objects coming from the pole at incredible speeds, is what he said. Now, during the press conference, the Admiral also said that in a rapidly shrinking world, the United States would no longer derive any sense of security from its isolation or geographical distance from the oceans. The Admiral reaffirmed his belief that the entire continent of Antarctica should be closely monitored. As for Admiral Byrd, when he arrived in the United States, he spent several weeks in the investigative offices. All his documents and diary strangely disappeared, while he is said to have ended up in a psychiatric clinic, and then his traces disappeared for some reason. Eisenhower then made a statement. He said, "World War II is not over yet," end quote. And it's confirmed by Admiral Byrd distributing phrase, in the event of a new war, quote unquote, the last Hitler battalions are waiting for their golden opportunity. As early as the 1950s, rumor began circulating about German nationalist circles that they were convinced that post-war disc drones flying around the world were in fact German superior weapons under development and control during the Third Reich. And it was let us not forget that the Roswell incident was, in fact, in July 4th, 1947, that it took place. Until the late 1970s, neo-Nazi writers claimed that the legendary Last Battalion, which was intended to preserve post-war Nazi secrets, was in a vast underground paradise in Antarctica. William and Landing, two neo-Nazi publishers and writers, report on the Nazi revival with facts, stories, and suggestions, and some report that when the Americans failed to strike the German underground base Neuberschätzgarten in Antarctica, strikes took place in 1958 under the pretext of nuclear tests, and what we officially know is that in 1958, a part of Operation Argus, there were 3 atmospheric nuclear explosions, and these tests were actually in the southern hemisphere between 2,300 and 3,500 kilometers north of Maudland of Antarctica. Of course, others may be unbridled products, but no one has denied the catastrophic failure of the Operation Highjump mission and the testimonies of the crews that they encountered superior flying objects in Antarctica. The Earth beyond the poles, exploration flight over North Pole, the Hollow Earth, the diary, to write diary in secret and obscurity. It says my Arctic flight from February 19th of 1947. And this is according to Admiral Byrd, there comes a time when the rationality of man pales and one must accept the inevitability of truth. Sorry, I got that out finally. There I go again. I haven't had coffee yet, that's why. Inevitability, that is a tongue twister. I am not in a position, he says, to reveal the following documents in this writing. Maybe they should never see the light of public scrutiny, but I have to do my duty here so that everyone can read it one day. In a world of greed and exploitation of some against humanity, the truth can no longer be suppressed. Flight log, basic Arctic base, February 1947. It's strange that he has the day first, then the month, then the year. That's the way they write it in Europe. Whereas he is American, and how is it that he writes the date in the European fashion? Very strange. Anyway, 0600 hours, all preparations for our flight to the north have been completed, and we are airlifted with a full fuel tank in 610 hours. 620 hours, 620 hours, fuel mixture for right engine looks very rich, adjustment made in engine running smoothly. 730 hours, radio communication control with the base camp, everything is fine and the radio signals are normal. 740 hours, small oil leak on the right engine, the oil pressure indicator looks normal. 800 hours, a slight turbulence from the east at an altitude of 2,321 meters. That's about 6,000, 7,000 feet up. Correction, 1,700 feet without future turbulence, but with increasing wind speed, slight adjustment to control operations. The aircraft perform very well now. 815 hours, wireless control base on, normal condition. I'm just going to say instead of 800 hours, 8:30 in the morning, 8:30 a.m. Turbulence again, 2,900 meters altitude increase, normal flight conditions again. 9:10 in the morning, snow and ice below, note of yellow nature environment, dispersion in line drawing, change path to examine this color pattern, not reddish or purple as well. 2 complete circles in the area and return to the assigned compass path. Control position at base and transmission of information on ice and snow colors. 9:10, magnetic compasses and gyroscopes rotate oscillating. We are not able to keep control of the instruments. So what was going on? Okay, so their magnetic compasses and gyroscopes were like really rotating fast. They didn't know, as if they couldn't keep tracing the pole. Now we use the solar compass and everything looks good. The controls are seemingly slow in response and have an indication of sluggishness but no trace of ice. 9:15 a.m. in the background you can see mountains. 9:49 a.m. flight 29 minutes from the first observation of the mountains is not an illusion. These are mountains and consist of small ranges that I have never seen before. 9:55 a.m. altitude 2,950 meters. We are again experiencing strong turbulence. 10 a.m. we pass over the small mountain, continue to the north as much as can be ascertained. Beyond the mountain range you can see a valley with a small river or stream that crosses the central part. There should be no green valley below. Something is definitely wrong and unnatural here. So in other words, there was no ice. He saw a green valley with a river. Okay? He says this shouldn't be here. What's going on? Something, he says, is definitely wrong and unnatural here. We should be over snow and ice. On the other side, there are large forests on the mountain slopes. Our navigation instruments are still rotating. The gyroscope is swinging back and forth. 10:05 a.m. I change the altitude to 1,400 feet, so he's going lower, you see, and make a sharp left turn to better look at the valley below. It is green with moss or a tight kind of grass. The light that here looks different. The light here looks different. He's talking about the sunlight because it's in the morning. I can no longer see the sun. Okay? He can't see the sun. We make another left turn and find some kind of animal visible below us. It looks like an elephant. No, it looks more like a mammoth, he says. This is unbelievable. However, here it is. Altitude reduction to 1,000 feet, so he's going lower now to see what's going on. And I take binoculars to better examine the animal. It is confirmed they are definitely mammoths. Mention it in the database. This is unbelievable. This is from his diary. 10:30 a.m. we meet Green Hills. The outside temperature indicates readings 74 degrees Celsius. 74 Celsius? That can't be. That's too hot. That's like a hot oven. 74 Celsius? We continue our journey. Navigation instruments have normal indications. I'm confused by what they did before. Attempt to communicate with base. The wireless does not work. 11:30 a.m. The countryside below is flatter and more normal, if I may use that word. Ahead we observe a city. It is impossible. The aircraft looks like and strangely increases altitude. The controls do not respond. Oh my God, from the right wing of the boat there is a strange type of aircraft. They close at a fast pace in parallel. They are disc-shaped and have a glow on them. They are close enough now to see the marks on them. It is a kind of swastika. It's fantastic. Where are we? What has happened? I try to take control, nothing responds. We are trapped in an invisible rope. This is amazing. This is from, of course, his diary. 11:35 hours. A voice comes straight from our radio in English with a slight Scandinavian or German accent. The message is, "Welcome, Admiral, to our sector. We will land you in exactly 7 minutes. Relax, Admiral, you are in good hands." I find that the engines of our plane have stopped working. The aircraft is under some strange control and is now making a turn. Manipulations are useless. In other words, they could no longer control their craft, and it was controlled by these beings in this area of Antarctica. And obviously they knew English, and they knew who he was, and his language, and etc. 11:40 hours, another radio message was received. We have started the landing process, and at times the plane trembles slightly and begins to descend immediately, as if caught in a large invisible elevator. The downward movement is negligible, and we touch the ground with a small jolt. 11:45 hours, that's 11:45 a.m. I make a hasty last entry in the flight log. Several men approach our plane on foot. They are tall with blonde hair. In the background is a large glittering city that pulsates with the shades of the colors of the rainbow. I do not know what is going to happen now, but I do not see any sign of weapons on those approaching. I now hear a voice ordering me in my name to open the cargo door. Obey. And Admiral Byrd continues, from this point I write all the following facts from memory. They defy any imagination and look all crazy if it had not happened. The radio operator and I left the boat in a very welcoming manner, and we met the craft. He meant his airplane. We then boarded a small platform with no wheel drive. He took us to the bright city at high speed, no wheel drive, so they were flying in the air like a hovercraft, you know. As we approached, the city appeared to be made of crystalline material. We soon arrived at a large building that is a type I have never seen before. We are offered a kind of hot drink whose taste I had never tasted before. It's delicious. After about 10 minutes, two of our wonderful hosts show up to meet us, that I need to accompany, and that I have to accompany them. I have no choice but to follow them. I leave my radio behind and we walk a short distance into something that looks like an elevator. We go down for a few moments, the machine stops and the door rises slightly. We then proceed to a long corridor illuminated by a rose light that seems to come from the walls themselves. One of the two suggests we stop in front of a large door. There is an inscription on the door that I cannot read. The big door slides silently and I enter. Quote, "Have no fear, Admiral, you are listening to the master," end quote. I walk in and my eyes adjust to the beautiful color that seems to fill the space. Then I start to see my environment. What my eyes saw is indeed the most beautiful spectacle of my whole existence. It is indeed very beautiful and wonderful to describe it. I do not think there is a human term that can describe it in every detail. My thoughts are heartily interrupted by a warm, rich, melodic voice. "Welcome to our area, Admiral." I see a man with refined features and marks of years on his face. He is sitting on a long table. It makes sense for me to sit in one of the chairs, and after I sit down, he crosses his fingers and laughs. He speaks slowly again and conveys the following, quote, "We have let you in here because you are noble and known to the surface world, Admiral." End quote. I answer under my breath, "Yes." The master responds with a smile, "You are in the field of Ariani, in the inner world of the earth. Your mission should not be delayed, and we will accompany you safely to the surface for a further distance. But now, Admiral, I will tell you why you were called here." So we're talking about inner earth here. Quote, "Our interests begin immediately after the first atomic bombs exploded in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. At that disturbing moment, we sent our flying machines to the surface to explore what your race had done. It is, of course, past history, but I must continue. You see, we have never intervened in wars of your race, in barbarism, but now we must because you have learned to intervene in a specific force that is not intended for man, the individual. Our envoys have already left messages to your governments around the world, but do not take them seriously. You have now been chosen to witness the existence of our world. You see, our culture and science are many thousands of years ahead of your race, Admiral." I interpreted by, what does this have to do with me, sir? His eyes penetrated deep into my mind, and after some thought he replied, "Your race has reached a path of no return, since there are some among you who will destroy your world rather than leave power as they know it." I shook my head and the teacher continued, "In 1945 and then we tried to contact your tribe, but our efforts were met with hostility and our craft were attacked. Yes, they are still being pursued with malice and hostility by your fighters. So now I can tell you that a storm is raging in your world, a dark glow that will not be exhausted for years. There will be no answer in your hands. There is no security in your silence, in your science. It will hold until every flower of your culture is trampled on and all human beings are destabilized into a huge mess. Your recent wars was just a prelude to what will happen to your race. We here see it more clearly with each passing hour. Are you saying I'm wrong?" End quote. "No," I replied, said Byrd. "This happened once before. The Dark Ages came and lasted for more than 500 years. "Yes, my child," replied the teacher. "Dark ages will come for your tribe and will cover the earth like a veil, but I believe that some of your tribe will live through the storm. Beyond that, I cannot say. We see in the distance a new world from the ruins of your struggle, looking for the lost and legendary treasures, and you will be here, my child, safe in your preservation. When that time comes, we will come to the forest and to the fore and help restore your culture. By then, you may have learned the futility of war and conflict, and after that, some of your cultures and sciences will be returned to your race to start over. You, my child, must return to the surface with this message. With these words, our meeting closes, Byrd said. I stood for a moment like a dream, but I knew this was a reality for some strange reason. I bent down a little out of respect or humility. I bowed down. I do not know exactly. Suddenly I realized again that the two hosts who brought me here were by my side again. From here, he was an admiral, they nodded. I turned once more before leaving and looked at the teacher. A gentle smile was etched on his slender and ancient face. Goodbye, my child, he said, and then made a meaningful gesture, a gesture of peace in our meeting that really ended. Quickly, we walked behind the large door of the teacher's room and entered the elevator. The door slid silently down at the same time we went up. One of the hosts spoke to me again. We must hurry now, Admiral. The teacher wishes you. Do not delay any longer with your schedule, and you must return his message about your race. I did not say anything. All of a sudden, this was beyond belief, and once again my thoughts stopped as we stopped. I entered the room and found myself with my radio again. He had a worried expression on his face. As I approached, I said, "Okay, Howie, all right." The two beings nodded to us, waiting for a transfer. We boarded and soon got back on the plane. The engines idled and we boarded immediately. The whole atmosphere seemed to be charged with an air of urgency. After the cargo door closed, the aircraft was lifted by an invisible force until we reached 2,700 meters high. That's about 9,000 feet up. Two of the aircraft were with us for some distance for guidance on the way back. I must state here that the air velocity indicator did not read, but we were moving at a very fast pace. 215 hours, the radio message is coming. We are leaving you now, Admiral. It has complete freedom of operation. We watched for a moment as the records disappeared into the blue sky. Now, the aircraft suddenly felt like it had been caught in a sharp drop for a moment. We quickly regained control and we did not talk for a while. Everyone has their thoughts. Flight log entries continue. 220 hours, we are again over huge areas of ice and snow. At about 27 minutes from the base, we talk to them, they respond. We report all normal conditions. The base expresses its relief with a successful communication. 300 hours, we land smoothly at the base. I have a mission. End of registrations. March 11, 1947, I attended a meeting with staff at the Pentagon. I have fully stated my discovery in the teacher's message. Everything was noted. The president has been informed. I am detained for several hours, 6 hours, 39 minutes. I'm being interrogated by the top security forces and a medical team. It was a test. I have been brought under strict control by U.S. law. I was instructed to remain silent about what I learned on behalf of humanity. Unbelievable. I was reminded that I was in the military and had to obey orders. Okay, December 30th, 1956, last registration. These last years that have passed since 1947 have not been calm. I am now making my final addition to this unique calendar. In closing, I must state that I have faithfully kept the matter a secret in accordance with the instructions all these years. It is completely contrary to my values and ethos. Now I seem to feel the long night coming, and this secret will not die with me, but the whole truth must and will triumph properly. This may be the only hope for humanity. I have seen the truth and my spirit has accelerated, and I have been liberated. I have done my duty to the monstrous military-industrial complex. Now the big night is approaching, but there will be no end. Just as the long Arctic night ends, the bright sun of truth will come again, and those who are dark will fall into this light. For what I have seen in the country beyond the pole, in the center of the great unknown. This was by Admiral Richard E. Byrd, United States Navy, December 24th, 1956. I've translated this for you from a Greek article. This was from his diary as to what happened, what he saw during Operation Highjump. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support.